Hello. Oh, no, almost. I'm over here today. We're going to be talking about the next fusion that has been announced for the game, and I think this is unironically the best fusion that has been announced so far this year, and we're going to go over why. So let's go ahead and take a look at some of the champions first of all that have been released so far this year. Of course, we had Armand's, the champion that has broken the game. He's broken the arena, he's broken PvE, he's broken basically everything in this game. We had Eostrid Dream Song, who wasn't that good in my opinion when I first looked at her kit, but now after playtesting her, she is absolutely fantastic, and I'm very happy to use her, and she's definitely incredibly useful somewhere in like Hydra, for example. And then what else did we have for a fusion? I don't remember. But anyways, with those two champions on their own, you'd have to think, oh right, yes, Wixwell. We had Wixwell, the champion who is absolutely broken clan boss so far, absolutely breaking Hydra, breaking all sorts of content in the game. So to stand toe-to-toe with these champions, it would have to be a pretty incredible fusion that we had announced. And I think Raid has done just that, so let's go ahead and talk about her. This is going to be the Incarnate is the name of the champion. Let's go ahead and take a look at her kit here. Attacks one enemy 2 times. Each hit has a 30% chance, books to a 50% chance of placing a provoke, has a 30% chance of counterattacking when an ally arbiter is hit, occurs once per hit. A2 attacks all enemies 75, books to 100% chance of removing all shields, and 1 random buff from all enemies. Then places a shield buff on all allies for 2 turns. The value of the shield is proportional to this champion's defense, and this is going to be on a 3-turn cooldown, as you'd probably expect. A3, defensive measures, 3-turn cooldown, places the big version of ally protection on everybody except her for 2 turns, usual skill, places a strengthened buff on all allies for 2 turns. Crisis response, the first passive that has a 4-turn cooldown, increases this champion's accuracy by 20% for each ally under an ally protection buff. When killed, resets the cooldown of the Destiny's Call skill for any ally arbiters. If there are multiple champions on the team with this skill, this effect will only activate once. And Ultimate Purpose, which is the second passive with a 4-turn cooldown, increases her resistance by 20 for each ally under the ally protection. This champion also receives 20% of the damage of any ally arbiters. If there are multiple champions on the team with this skill, this effect will only activate once. And if there are multiple champions on the team with this skill, this effect will only activate once. Did I just read that twice? No, I didn't. If an ally arbiter is about to get killed by a fatal hit, places an unkillable buff on her for 1 turn. Let's go ahead and take a look at Arbiter real quick. She's going to be in the High Elves. What does Arbiter have going on? Well, she has this Destiny's Call ability right here, which is going to be the AoE revive with 35% HP and filling the turn meter by 20%, then giving an extra turn, where she usually cycles into her Mentor of Heroes. You might be reading this kit, and you might be thinking, okay, this seems like a pretty average champion. Why do you think this is the best fusion that's been released so far this year? Well, the reason for that is the fusions that have been released so far. So Armand's, for example, he's been fantastic everywhere in the game. Eostrid, fantastic most areas in the game. And Wixwell, fantastic most areas in the game. This champion is the direct opposite of that, where she is not that useful in all areas of the game, which... you know, they could have done a lot better in terms of a fusion. However, I think this champion is going to have a little bit of utilization perhaps in go second teams, very, very, very late game arena. You know, using maybe an arbiter to counter a Sifi or something like that, trying to help put that, you know, unkillable on her, getting her around to a revive, whatever it might be, right? Because you could essentially just cycle this champion and have her reviving quite often. I think there might be some niche use there for her. However, unless this is an absolute bomb of an A2, I don't think she brings enough utility to the game to be used basically anywhere else besides most areas of the arena. And why is that important? People who are competing at that level in the arena are spending thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars on this game, possibly even into the millions on some of these accounts. So they have no problem going for each fusion like this. Hell, they'll probably pull this champion by the time the fusion is done, and they'll have her +4 by the end of the week. Some of these accounts are absolutely ridiculous if you look at the top ranked players in Platinum, or some of the top ranked players, of course, in Live Arena. For everyday players like myself, so if we take a look in here, I just got done the Wixwell fusion. The Wixwell fusion feels like it was like 2 days ago, and I'm finally just resting from it, right? And I have nothing. My resources are spent. I have very few shards. I don't have any chickens, really. Like, this is what I have left for chickens. I basically have no champions ready to rank up. I have nothing. And so having a fusion like this come out means that I can skip this without wondering or second guessing myself, right? Because the downside to some of these fusions in the past is they've come out and they've been kind of questionable. They might be really good in this area, but we can't quite tell yet. They might be, really useful in this niche area, so I don't want to skip it. I have to go for it. This champion, however, I think the only players that are going to benefit from her are the same players that go for every fusion regardless of who it is. So for regular players like you and I, depending on who's watching this, of course, maybe I have some whales in here as well, I don't know. But for everyday players, we can essentially skip this without worrying or second guessing. That being said, the one caveat I want to call out is it's very possible that some of the epics included in this fusion will be very good champions. If that's the case, we can also go for the epics without second guessing and saying, hey, well, should I turn these epics in for the fusion, or should I just keep the epic? Because this epic's actually a pretty good champion as well. It is incredible. This is essentially the best case scenario to come after a fusion like the Wixwell that everybody went to. If they put out another must fuse champion right after, everybody would be super upset. So basically, just take this with a grain of salt, right? People are upset that the fusion isn't that good. Keep in mind that if they put out good fusions back to back, everybody's going to be so spent and exhausted that player burnout is going to reach an all-time high, and there's going to be nobody left playing the game, in which case we won't have any content updates coming out. So I think this is a very good move by Plarium. I think this champion serves her purpose perfectly well in the game. In terms of her actual kit, and if we're looking at it objectively, there is not much to this champion that's going to be useful. There's not much to this champion that you're going to miss on your account if you don't have her. This provoke is decent, but there are better provokers on the A1. This is decent, but there's better champions that do the same thing. And this ally protection is, again, it's okay, but there's far better champions that do this. So I could see this champion being useful to you if you don't have any ally protectors, if you don't have, any sort of a buff stripper or something like that, right? Because she's not even removing all buffs, it's just simply shield and one random buff. So if you're going against a team that has like 6, 7 buffs, or even 4 or 5 buffs like you get in the live arena a lot of times, you definitely want to make sure that you're bringing a full strip. So even somebody like a Madame Ceres does this better. Keep in mind as well, this champion is still going to be not immune to polymorphs, so she can get hit quite heavily by that if you're trying to strip people, right? And then, yeah, like I say, this particular skill right here doesn't really do a whole lot for your team that another champion isn't doing. I would say somebody like a Mithrala is going to be better. That being said, I don't think this champion is anywhere near as bad as the Chronicler Adlin login champion that we had. I think you could actually get some niche use out of this champion, and certainly if you're a very early game champion, having a legendary defense that can probably do some damage, or at the very least support your team, is going to be very good for you. So depending on how hard this fusion is, it might be a good champion to pick up. If it's attainable, and if I don't have to absolutely exhaust myself once again to get this champion, I am probably going to go for her, and I will hope to, make some content on her in the future. That being said, though, the massive caveat to this is I haven't play tested her, nobody has quite yet, so once we see her on the test server, maybe this A2 is going to be an absolute nuke. Maybe she's going to be great for pairing with your Arbiter, right? Maybe the shield she places is absolutely insane, and it can be paired with somebody like Wixwell. We don't know yet. First impressions, though, I would say this is an easy skip. Let me know what you guys think down below.